Hello, my name is Christian Munoz. I'm with Blue Pillar, and today we're going to go over how to set up a load test and initiate a load test. So let's get started. First and foremost, you want to make sure that you are inside your facility's network. Really doesn't matter how, whether you're in the facility network through VPN. It doesn't matter. Just as long as you can access your facility server, your facility Blue Pillar server, you should be fine. So for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and access one of the Phoenix servers, this here, and you want to make sure you log in with your username and password. The system does keep track of what user does what. It keeps track of who ran load tests, who ran no load tests, all that good stuff. And this will just keep I think everything pretty much organized and lets everyone know who did what and when. So just want to mention that you may see this here, this HP client security pop-up. This is just something that's on my computer. That's not something that you would necessarily see on your computer. So if you see this, just go ahead and disregard. Okay, so let's get started. Let's go into the first system, and what you'll see here is this particular site has 4 different systems. Your site may only have 1, it may have 2. It really does not matter. What we're going to do applies to all sites. Doesn't matter how many systems are associated with them. So let's go into the first system here, and you'll see pretty much an overview of all the ATSs and the generator that's associated with these ATSs. So what you want to do next to get started with the load test is you want to go into this setup here. You want to click this setup button here, and that will bring up the event setup wizard. Okay, and in this drop down menu you can go ahead and select what type of test you want to run. As a default, Blue Pillar includes 5 different tests that you can perform. You have the manual load test, monthly load test, weekly no load test, and manually configured test. For this test, I'm just going to go over. For this tutorial, I'm just going to go over the monthly load test. So once you click the event type, it will ask which group you want to do the testing on. There may be times where you may want to only test on a single ATS. It doesn't matter that it's part of a system with more ATSs, but you may only want to test ATS-CA. So more groups can be set up for you. You just need to contact Blue Pillar, and we'll go ahead and set up whatever group that you need. So for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and select the Gen 1 group, which is basically composed of all 4 ATSs that are shown over here. And you can see that here. Now, in the Initiating ATS drop-down, you have the option to select which ATS you want to initiate the load test. Which one's going to transfer first. This is something that we encourage you guys to just leave this as is, because the system keeps track of which ATS transferred or initiated the transfer, or initiated the test the previous month or the previous time or the last time that the test was ran. So we usually leave this as is, but you can select in this case, I can select ATS XR. You can do that as well on your system. It really is up to you. It gives you the ability to select which ATS you want to initiate the load test. The next checkbox or input that we need from a user is the initiate commands through the user interface checkbox. If you select this checkbox, it will allow you to manually go in there. Once the test has been set up and it's running, it will bring up an interface that will allow you to select which ATS you want to transfer and when. You can only select 2 of the 4, 1 of the 4. It doesn't matter, but it'll give you that ability to select which ones you want to transfer over and which ones you don't want to transfer over. For the purpose of this tutorial, I'm not going to go ahead and check that because we want to go ahead and do all 4 ATSs at the same time. The next prompt is the time to wait to begin event data capture box. This box will basically tells the system how much it needs to wait before it starts reading data. The default is one minute. Usually that's more than enough time for all the systems to come up and for us to start getting, capturing good data. So if you want to extend that, you can. I don't recommend dropping it below 1 minute. 1 minute is the default. Typically we just leave that as is. So moving forward, we have the enforce 30% load rule to start test checkbox, and for this, it's pretty self-explanatory. I'm just gonna read what it says here. Basically, the 30% load rule will force the testing system to wait to start the test until the associated generator load is at 30% of the nameplate rating. If the load does not reach 30% within 5 minutes, the test will abort and generate notification alarms. If the test falls below 30% at any time during the test will continue but generate a notification alarm. This setting will also affect manual load test. When selected, it will be the official test time capture at the time 30% load has been attained, regardless of the equipment status. So we typically leave that unchecked. We definitely don't want a test to stop just because 30% load wasn't reached. We want the test to continue, so we leave that checked. And the last input that's required from the user are these 2 here, these input boxes. And this is basically the load transfer time offset, which is the time to delay the transfer of subsequent ATSs after the initiating ATS is switched. So we usually don't mess with that. We leave that as its default values. You can mess with that if you want. It'll just be a longer delay between each transfer of each ATS once the initiating ATS has transferred over. So let's go ahead and hit next. Okay, so here we have the operator name or report operator name. Here, this interface allows you to name your report, and this is the report that's generated after the load test has been completed. It gives you the ability to rename the report whatever you want. So for this tutorial, I'm going to leave it as is. I'm not going to make any changes, but you could change it if you want. Okay, here this is a list of emails that you can list, and the purpose of this screen here is to allow you to send reports to multiple individuals once the test has been completed. So all you have to do is just enter a comma with no spaces. Make sure that you enter no spaces when you are typing in the email addresses, and type in whoever it is that you want to receive the report, and that's it. That's what this is for. Let's go ahead and hit next. This is a system checklist. There for this particular site, there are no system checklists, pre-event checklist items. Typically what this is used for is, let's say you want cardiology to receive an email or a notification that a test is going to be ran, then we can go ahead and add that as an extra feature on here, and it'll just send a notification, hey, a load test is being ran. So for the purpose of this tutorial, it's not needed, it's not necessary. The site takes care of that. Let's go ahead and move forward. Once you have finalized all the previous prompts, it gives you a summary, and it's basically going over all the things that you just input into the system or checked off. So let's go ahead and hit finish. And when you hit finish, you'll see that the run button has now become active. So now, if you hit run, the load test will be initiated. One thing I want to make clear though is the blue pillar system, or Avise as we call it, does not start up the generators and then send the remote test signal to the ATSs. This actually does simulate a load test that you guys perform on a monthly basis. The generators are turned on because the ATSs have switched over. We don't turn on the generators and then wait for them to ramp up and make sure that we got good voltage and then switch the ATSs over to emergency. It's the other way around. The ATSs switch over and then the generator turns on its own. We do monitor that it's running and make sure that it's running, but that's the way it works. The initiating ATS will transfer over, and the subsequent ATSs within the system will transfer over as well, and the generator will turn on immediately after those ATSs transfer over. So our system is simply think of it like a supervisory system. Yeah, we will command the ATSs to transfer over, but we still depend, or the system still depends on your existing electrical equipment to transfer everything over and make sure that the generator turns on. So just wanted to make sure that I clarified that before we moved forward. Now you'll notice, and like I mentioned before, this particular site has various systems. This one has 4. If you want to run all the systems, or do a load test on all the systems, you can do that. You don't have to wait for the first load test to finish before you continue on to the next load test. What you can do is once you hit run and the load test starts, you can move on to the next system. So once I hit run here and the load test has started, we see that it's begun. Then I can go to the Gen 2 system and go through the setup process, the same setup process that I went through for Gen 1. And once the run button becomes active, we can go ahead and hit run, and so on and so forth for all the systems. So we don't necessarily have to wait for one load test to end to start with the next system. We can do them all at once. We just need to make sure that we go through the setup of each one, hit the run button before we move on to the next. So the next thing that I'm going to go over is how to actually look for, or what to look for when a load test is in progress. And you'll see the different types of notifications that the system brings up while the load test is started. And we may actually have some issues that we can look at and what they mean, and this will give you an idea of how the system works and what types of things to look out for.